Over the years, Antarctica has been a subject of speculation and intrigue, giving rise to numerous theories, myths, and conspiracies. It is a land of secrets, shielded from the eyes of the world by its harsh environment. However, thanks to the development of technology, scientists are veiling of secrecy and reveal something so disturbing that it sent shockwaves around the globe. Join us as we dig deep into top 21 bizarre discoveries about the coldest parts of the world. Number 1. Meteorite fragments. There may be hundreds of thousands of meteorites left for scientists to discover on the icy fields of Antarctica. Nearly 2/3 of all meteorites recovered on Earth originate in Antarctica. The cold, dry nature of the frozen continent helps preserve these extraterrestrial rocks, and the dark colors of these stones make them stand out against ice and snow. Meteorites were originally part of planetary bodies, and so these space rocks from the bottom of the world have yielded many valuable clues about the nature, origins, and evolution of the rest of the solar system. When meteorites fall on Antarctica, they usually land in the snow-covered regions that span 98% of the continent. Over time, snow accumulates there, compacts, and becomes ice, embedding these space rocks within ice sheets that flow toward the margins of the continent. One of the A meteorite found in Antarctica is Allen Hills 84001, a chunk of rock that formed on Mars some 4 billion years ago. Discovered in Antarctica in 1984, the meteorite kindled a debate that's been raging for decades. The 4-billion-year-old fragment formed on Mars during the red planet's turbulent Noachian period was jettisoned to space by a giant impact around 17 million years ago and landed on Earth some 13,000 years ago. Named for the Antarctic Allen Hills in which it was found, the 1.94 kilograms meteorite is among the oldest ever recovered. A NASA-led group of scientists shocked the world in 1996 by daring to suggest that the worm-like carbonate globules on the meteorite were fossils, and therefore the first evidence of alien life. Many scientists questioned this interpretation, positing other theories for the alleged biomorphs, such as volcanic activity, impact events, and exposure to water. Most scientists agree that evidence of life is absent on Allen Hills 84001, but the debate continues after more than a quarter century. Regardless, one thing is for sure: this single rock won't answer the question as to whether life once existed or still exists on Mars. For that, our best current option is a sample return mission, which thankfully is already underway. NASA's Perseverance rover is currently collecting and depositing surface samples for a future mission to bring to Earth, possibly in the early 2030s. Number 2. 66-million-year-old egg in Antarctica. Estimated to be around 66 million years ago, the football-sized egg of an ancient marine reptile was found in Antarctica. It became the first known fossil soft-shell egg to have been left on the continent, and its existence has somewhat upended our understanding. As lead author Lucas Legender, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Texas Austin's Jackson School of Geosciences, said in a statement, "It is from an animal the size of a large dinosaur, but it is completely unlike a dinosaur egg. It is most similar to the eggs of lizards and snakes, but it is from a truly giant relative of these animals." On the other hand, note that it was previously believed that giant marine reptiles from the Cretaceous did not lay eggs, but the mysterious leather orb would appear to contradict that. Scientists referred to the more than 28 by 18 centimeter stone-like fossil simply as the thing. The visibly collapsed and folded thin-shelled egg is among the largest to have ever been described, second only to the elephant bird's egg, and its structure is similar to most extant lizards and snakes. That points towards whoever laid it having an ovoviviparous lifestyle, whereby the egg develops inside of the mother and hatches immediately after being laid. The same was not true for the giant elephant birds. These flightless megafaunal birds were once widespread across Madagascar, weighing 500 kilograms and stretching 3 meters tall. They were so large, it's thought one egg could feed an entire human family. Like birds today, the elephant bird's egg had a hard shell, unlike the soft shell football our mosasaur left in Antarctica. As the largest eggs the planet's ever seen, elephant bird eggs could measure 33 centimeters long and with a liquid capacity of 8.5 liters. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, that's equivalent to 7 ostrich eggs, 183 chicken eggs, or over 12,000 hummingbird eggs, making it the largest single cell known to have existed on Earth. Both of these egg-laying behemoths are now extinct, and the title for largest egg alive today goes to the ostrich. According to Discover Wildlife, the largest egg on record came out of an ostrich in Sweden that unleashed 2.589 kilograms of shell-laden albumin. Boiling that would no doubt have taken a hot minute, but did you know there's a way to tell if an egg is hard-boiled without opening it? Number 3. Pyramids. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for a hidden history in Antarctica comes from satellite imagery and personal testimonies revealing structures that appear to be man-made. Pyramidal forms jutting out of the ice, massive entrances leading into the mountainside, and geometrically precise formations have been documented, challenging the natural origins of these features. Some researchers suggest these could be the remnants of an ancient civilization, predating known history and possibly connected to the mythos of Atlantis or other legendary lands spoken of in ancient texts. Accounts of discovered structures beneath the ice, complete with intricate inscriptions and warm interiors unaffected by the external freezing temperatures, suggest the presence of advanced technology or knowledge. Testimonies from military personnel, including a Navy SEAL's description of a vast, illuminated chamber with hieroglyphic-like carvings, point to the existence of an ancient civilization or alien presence that has mastered technologies far beyond our current capabilities. These stories, while lacking in physical evidence accessible to the public, challenge our understanding of human history and the development of civilization. Number 4. A hidden world under the ice. Researchers uncovered a never-before-seen ecosystem that lurks in an underground river deep below the icy surface of the Larsen Ice Shelf using a massive hot water drill. The secret habitat lies in a massive chamber around 500 meters below the surface of the ice. Researchers found the underground structure after noticing an unusual groove in a satellite image of the ice sheet, but never expected to find anything inside when they eventually drilled down to investigate it. Instead, the team found thousands of tiny crustaceans known as amphipods, which had them jumping up and down for joy. Called anemones, these tentacled creatures normally live on the seafloor. Like flowers, they sprout from rocks or sit rooted in sand. But not here. These critters instead had burrowed into the ice, forming what looked like an upside-down aquatic garden. Shrimp-like crustaceans flitted around them, like bumblebees in a meadow. A fish rested upside down on the ice ceiling, like a cat laying in the grass. And in the words of Brittany Schmidt, who works at Cornell University in Ithaca, NY, a glaciologist, this scene is like something out of Alice in Wonderland. This dark, frigid place may seem extreme to us, but animals had adapted to make it home. And with 99.99% of the ocean beneath Antarctica's floating ice shelves still unexplored, plenty of other weird, undiscovered life may share these waters. These strange animals show us that life can thrive in some bizarre places on Earth. The under-ice communities could also hint at what kinds of life might exist in places much further afield, such as in the outer reaches of our solar system. Number 5. Antarctica's prehistoric rainforest. There has been life on Earth for about 3.5 billion years. Until about 575 million years ago, all life was microscopic plant life. Antarctica used to be part of the supercontinent Gondwana. When animal life first began on Earth, initially in the marine environment, Antarctica lay along what is now Australia's southern margin. Australia and Antarctica were rotated 90 degrees from where they are today. The equator ran through both continents. About 400 million years ago, Gondwana moved dramatically, and Antarctica took its place over the South Pole. The carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere was much higher than it is now. As the oxygen content grew, it reached the stratosphere and was converted to ozone. The ozone provided protection from ultraviolet rays, and life spread from the ocean to the land. About 130 million years ago, Gondwana began to disintegrate. India, South America, and Africa broke away. The links between Australia and Antarctica remained until about 55 million years ago. Australia began moving north quickly, and Antarctica was isolated for the first time since animals evolved. About 30 million years ago, the Southern Ocean began to circulate around the southern world, and the modern Antarctic environment evolved. Fossil from now extinct Glossopteris trees are well preserved in Antarctica. The concept of Gondwana was first proposed to explain the widespread distribution of glacial rocks and Glossopteris. When Robert Falcon Scott and his men were found dead in their tent on the way back from the South Pole, specimens of Glossopteris from the Beardmore Glacier region were found with them. While they had jettisoned almost everything else on the way back, they recognized the importance of the Glossopteris and refused to leave the specimens behind. These specimens are around 280 to 300 million years old. Many elements that still exist in some southern hemisphere, cold temperate rainforests, such as in Tasmania, New Zealand, and southern South America, used to be present in Antarctica. It is clear that these elements continued in Antarctica until about 35 million years ago. But there are other tantalizing pieces of evidence to suggest that it continued until much more recently. Abundant remains of the southern beach Northophagus have been found only 400 kilometers from the South Pole. The remains may be as young as 2 to 3 million years old. Number 6. Dinosaurs' fossils. Dinosaurs lived in Antarctica and are well known from the northern tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, although few have been described formally. They include ankylosaurs, the armored dinosaurs, mosasaurs, and plesiosaurs, both marine reptilian groups. Seymour Island, just off the Antarctic Peninsula, is one of the most important fossil sites on Earth. It contains a bewildering array of different fossils, representing many different environments. It also includes one of the very few uninterrupted sections across the Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary, the time when dinosaurs and many other life forms died out, probably due to meteorite or asteroid impact. Marine Plain in the Vestfold Hills has a great diversity of fossils from 4.5 to 4.1 million years ago. The best known are the fossil dolphins and whales. About 5 or 6 species are known. The dolphins are very different from modern dolphins. They consist of 2 species, one about 4.5 meter long and the other about 8 to 9 meter long. They are unusual as they lack teeth. They may have located squid by echolocation and eaten them by sucking them into their very long, slim jaws. The dolphins are quite common and occur as almost complete skeletons. It is as if they died and sank gently into the mud. It is clear that a major extinction event occurred around 2 to 3 million years ago. This may be part of a global extinction event. The cause is debated, but one strong contributor was probably the closure of the Isthmus of Panama, which caused the flow of water from the Atlantic to Pacific Ocean to stop, causing the Gulf Stream and Northern Hemisphere glaciation to begin. Another contributor may have been the Himalayas, which were growing at the time and influenced the circulation of the atmosphere in the Northern Hemisphere. Number 7. New deepest point mapped. A new map of the Southern Ocean gave scientists their most detailed view to date of the seafloor surrounding Antarctica, including its deepest point, the Factorian Deep. Resting at a depth of around 7,437 meters below the sea surface, or 17 Empire State Buildings stacked top to bottom, the Factorian Deep was only discovered in 2019. But until now, researchers had no idea how it fit together with the surrounding seafloor. The new map draws from more than 1,200 sonar datasets, collected mostly by science vessels and covers more than 48 million square kilometers of seafloor. Researchers hope to use the sea bottom chart to identify underwater mountains or seamounts that may be hotspots for marine life. Number 8. Logic-defying bottom blooms. Separate teams of researchers discovered seemingly impossible phytoplankton blooms lurking deep beneath the ocean's surface in both of Earth's polar regions. Scientists had previously assumed that there was not enough light in the water below polar sea ice for phytoplankton to produce enough energy to survive. But the new studies revealed that the algae can thrive with as little as 1% of the light available at the surface. In Antarctica, researchers used deep-diving floats to measure the amount of chlorophyll A, a pigment used by algae and other plants during photosynthesis, in the water deep beneath sea ice, and found that there was likely a high concentration of phytoplankton there. The researchers suspect that a decrease in the amount and lifespan of sea ice caused by climate change could help sustain these bottom blooms by maximizing the amount of light they receive. Number 9. 1 million-year-old DNA unearthed. Researchers accidentally unearthed DNA from ancient microorganisms, some of which are roughly 1 million years old, while collecting routine seafloor sediment samples in the Scotia Sea. The ancient genetic material was pulled up from depths of up to 178 miles beneath the seafloor and dates back to between 1 million years ago to around 540,000 years ago. Scientists aren't certain which species the oldest DNA samples belong to, but the most recent samples likely originate from a group of phytoplankton known as diatoms. The diatoms date back to an ancient period of global warming and could provide clues as to how Antarctica's marine ecosystems will respond to human-caused climate change. Number 10. Doomsday Glacier in danger. Underwater robots that peered under Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, nicknamed the Doomsday Glacier, saw that it is holding on by its fingernails to the seabed below. Once it detaches, its doom may come sooner than expected due to rapid movement and an extreme spike in ice loss. A new map of the seafloor surrounding the icy behemoth revealed a series of parallel grooves that were left behind as the glacier scraped along the ocean bottom during previously unknown periods of rapid retreat within the last few centuries. Researchers warn that this type of rapid melting could be triggered again by extreme warming driven by climate change. Number 11. The enigmatic city of Atlantis. The theory that Atlantis, the mythical lost city, might be hidden beneath Antarctica's ice is a captivating blend of ancient legend and speculative science. Atlantis, first described by the Greek philosopher Plato around 360 BCE, is said to have been a powerful and advanced civilization that mysteriously sank into the sea, disappearing without a trace. Over the centuries, its location has been the subject of countless theories, ranging from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean. One of the more intriguing modern ideas is that Atlantis could lie beneath the thick ice sheets of Antarctica. This theory is largely fueled by the concept of a crust displacement, or polar shift. According to this hypothesis, the Earth's crust has shifted dramatically over geological time due to forces in the planet's mantle. Some proponents suggest that Antarctica was once located closer to the equator, with a temperate climate and thriving civilizations. A sudden shift in the Earth's crust, possibly triggered by a cataclysmic event, could have caused the continent to move to its current position over the South Pole, plunging what may have been an advanced society into ice and oblivion. One of the primary pieces of evidence cited by supporters of this theory is the Piri-Reis map, a 16th century world map created by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri-Reis. The map is famous for its unusually accurate depiction of the South American coastline, but it also shows the northern coast of Antarctica, despite the fact that Antarctica was not officially discovered and mapped until much later in the 19th century. Some theorists suggest that the map indicates that Antarctica was once ice-free, potentially home to a civilization, and could be the site of Atlantis. Number 12. Enormous underground river discovered. Researchers discovered a massive underground river that flows beneath 4 separate ice masses using ice-penetrating radar mounted on aircraft. The river is longer than the Thames in England and drains melting ice from a region the size of France and Germany combined and into the Weddell Sea. If the entire region were to melt as a result of climate change, it could raise global sea levels by 4.3 meters, which could have catastrophic consequences. Researchers suspect that there is probably an entire system of underground rivers across the continent. Number 13. World's largest iceberg says farewell. NASA's Terra satellite captured a photo of the world's largest iceberg, A76A, floating in the mouth of the Drake Passage, a turbulent stretch of water in the Southern Ocean, as it began its journey away from Antarctica. The enormous ice slab is around 135 kilometers long and 26 kilometers wide, and first broke off from the Ron ice shelf in 2021. Normally, when icebergs drift into the Drake Passage, they are quickly dragged eastward by strong ocean currents, before being whipped northward into warmer waters, where they completely melt soon after. It is unclear where A76A will eventually end up or when it will meet its watery grave. Number 14. Millions of fish nests. Scientists on board an icebreaker ship in Antarctica were blown away when they spied a trove of 60 million icefish nests dotting the floor of the Weddell Sea. The nests were serendipitously discovered using a seafloor video feed on board a scientific vessel that was primarily looking to study whales. The nests were 10 inches, 25 centimeters apart, and covered an area of around 93 square miles, 240 square kilometers. Apparent fish stood guard atop each nest, which contained an average of 1,700 eggs each. The area was also littered with icefish carcasses, suggesting that this massive icefish colony is an integral part of the local ecosystem, most likely serving as prey for Weddell seals. Number 15. Massive lake under the ice. Researchers discovered a city-sized lake hidden deep underneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. The hidden lake, which was named Lake Snow Eagle, has a surface area of 370 square kilometers and lies in a deep canyon beneath 3.2 kilometers of ice. The team uncovered the lake following 3 years of exhaustive aerial surveys over the ice sheet, using radar and special sensors designed to measure minuscule changes in Earth's gravity. Experts believe it could contain 34-million-year-old river sediments that are older than the ice sheet itself and could shed light on what Antarctica was like before the continent froze. Number 16. Simultaneous polar heat waves. In 2022, both of Earth's polar regions experienced unprecedented simultaneous heat waves that saw temperatures briefly skyrocket to never-before-seen heights in some areas. In Antarctica, the average temperature was 4.8 degrees Celsius, warmer than average. On the same day, the average temperature in the Arctic was 3.3 degrees Celsius, higher than normal. It is very uncommon to see high temperatures across both polar regions at the same time, because they have contrasting seasons. As spring arrives in the northern hemisphere, the Arctic is just starting to thaw, while Antarctica is beginning to freeze after months of summer melt. Scientists were particularly surprised by the heat wave in Antarctica, because temperatures there have remained more stable overall compared to the Arctic. Number 17. Ozone hole above Antarctica is growing larger. This next discovery in Antarctica relates to the ozone layer, or the layer found in Earth's stratosphere that essentially protects the Earth from the sun's harmful UV rays. In the fall of 2022, scientists discovered that the hole in the ozone located above Antarctica is the largest it has ever been, with the hole measuring larger than the size of the entire United States. With global warming and a depleting ozone layer, many people worry about Antarctica's future. It makes you wonder what Antarctica would look like if all the ice melted. While scientists are worried about climate change, NASA scientist Paul Newman says that, in general, this hole in the ozone should hopefully grow smaller over time. Number 18. Earthquake swarms. When people think of earthquakes, they likely picture the Ring of Fire, an area in the Pacific Ocean prone to tectonic plate friction. A series of earthquakes was recently discovered all the way in Antarctica, the southernmost continent. Scientists discovered earthquake swarms occurred along the Shetland Plate and Antarctic Plate. The swarms lasted from August 2020 all the way through February 2021. Within that time, around 85,000 earthquakes occurred. Scientists believe this series of earthquake storms was potentially caused by the eruption of a dormant volcano. Number 19. An enormous icefish breeding colony. In early 2021, scientists uncovered the largest known fish breeding colony by the Filchner ice shelf in the Antarctic Weddell Sea, containing 60 million nests. The team of scientists used a towed camera system to gather footage of the icefish, which were located over 400 meters below sea level. The images provided by the camera system allowed the scientists to determine that the nests were created by Neopagitopsis iona, a species of icefish. These nests typically contain between 1,500 to 2,500 eggs each. Number 20. The shipwreck of Shackleton's Endurance was uncovered. Among the most fascinating of Antarctica's stories is that of the Endurance, the ship famously associated with Sir Ernest Shackleton's ill-fated Antarctic expedition in 1915. Ernest Shackleton, an Irish-born British explorer, is best known for his leadership during the Imperial Transantarctic Expedition of 1914-1917. The Endurance, a sturdy steam yacht built for the expedition, became a symbol of human determination and resilience. Shackleton's goal was to be the first to cross the Antarctic continent, but fate had other plans. In early 1915, as the Endurance made its way through the Weddell Sea, it became trapped in the dense pack ice. Despite the crew's best efforts to free the ship, it was unable to escape and was eventually crushed by the relentless ice. The ship sank in November 1915, but Shackleton and his crew, though stranded in one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth, managed to survive a perilous ordeal that lasted for over a year. What followed was nothing short of miraculous. Shackleton's leadership skills were tested as he led his men across the ice and later to safety, first in small lifeboats and then across the treacherous South Georgia island. Remarkably, no lives were lost during the entire ordeal, despite the extreme conditions and the constant threat of death. Shackleton's ability to navigate such dire circumstances earned him a place in history as one of the greatest leaders of polar exploration. For decades, the wreck of the Endurance remained elusive, hidden beneath the ice and snow of the Southern Ocean. Researchers had long speculated on its location, but the icy depths of the Weddell Sea made any search incredibly challenging. However, in March 2022, after years of planning, a South African polar research team, known as the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust, succeeded in locating the wreck of the Endurance more than a century after it sank. The discovery was not just a triumph of exploration, but also a significant historical find. The Endurance was located at a depth of about 3,000 meters, sitting upright on the seabed in astonishingly well-preserved condition. Despite being trapped under layers of ice for over 100 years, the ship's structure was remarkably intact. Thanks to the cold, dark waters of the Weddell Sea, which have remained relatively stable over the decades, the Endurance was preserved in pristine condition. This was a remarkable stroke of luck, as many wrecks that have been submerged for so long are often destroyed by decay, corrosion, and marine life. The find also shed new light on Shackleton's story, offering a tangible connection to one of the most famous and heroic chapters in polar exploration. The wreck has since been studied in depth, with scientists taking care to preserve the site and avoid any damage to the delicate ecosystem of the Weddell Sea. Number 21. Bloodfall stands out among the snow. Amid Antarctica's vast stretches of glittering white snow and ethereal blue glacier ice is the famous Blood Falls. Situated at the terminus of Taylor Glacier in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, Blood Falls spews bold streaks of bright red brine from within the glacier onto the ice-covered surface of Lake Bonny, like blood running from a cut in the glacier. Australian geologist Griffith Taylor was the first explorer to happen upon Blood Falls in 1911. It was during one of the earliest Antarctic expeditions. At the time, Taylor and others attributed the color to the presence of red algae. The cause of this color was a mystery for nearly a century. But now we know that the iron-rich liquid turns red when it breaches the surface and oxidizes. In fact, this is the same process that gives iron a reddish hue when it rusts. 5 million years ago, sea levels rose, flooding East Antarctica and forming a salty lake. Millions of years later, glaciers formed on top of the lake, cutting it off from the rest of the continent, meaning that the water in Blood Falls is something of an aqueous time capsule, preserved 400 meters underground. As the glaciers on top of the lake began to freeze, the water below became even saltier. Today, the salt content of the subglacial lake under Blood Falls is 3 times saltier than seawater and too salty to freeze. The subglacial lake that feeds Blood Falls is trapped beneath a quarter-mile of ice. But in addition to being cut off from the rest of the continent, the water that feeds Blood Falls is completely cut off from the atmosphere. It has never seen sunlight and is completely devoid of oxygen. It's also extremely rich in iron, which was churned into the water by glaciers scraping the bedrock below the lake. When water from the subglacial lake seeps through a fissure in the glacier, the salty water cascades down the Taylor Glacier into Lake Bonny below. When the iron-rich water comes into contact with the air, it rusts, depositing blood-red stains on the ice as it falls. However, the color of Blood Falls isn't the only weird thing about it. It's what lives inside the subglacial lake that interests scientists more than the waterfall's creepy color. Millions of years ago, when those glaciers covered the salt lakes, there were microbes living in the water. And those microbes haven't gone anywhere, even though the water is now an extremely salty, oxygen-free bowl of complete darkness, buried 400 meters under a glacier. Much like bacteria found living near deep-sea thermal vents, the microbes of Blood Falls get their energy from breaking apart sulfates, which contain oxygen. After that, something eerily magical happens with the byproducts. The iron in the water interacts with them to restore the sulfates, basically recycling the sulfates for the microbes to break down into oxygen over and over again. The falls in McMurdo Dry Valley can only be reached by helicopter from nearby Antarctic research stations or cruise ships visiting the Ross Sea. That's all the information that we have for you today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss out on future episodes. And be sure to also tell us what you think about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.